Born in Tuskegee, Alabama, on November 23, 1960, Robin Renee Roberts grew up in Pass Christian, Mississippi. She was raised in a pioneering household as the youngest of four children. Her mother, Luca Marion Roberts, was the first African-American woman to serve as the chair of Mississippi's Board of Education, and her father, Colonel Lawrence E. Roberts, was a Tuskegee Airman. Roberts was a standout student and athlete, especially in basketball and tennis. In 1979, earning a salutatorian degree from Pass Christian High School, she received a tennis scholarship to Southeastern Louisiana University, where she eventually turned her attention to basketball and became one of the school's all-time top scorers, won 446 points, and rebounders 134. She earned a communications degree at cum laude in 1983. In 1983, Roberts started her broadcasting career at Hattiesburg, Mississippi's WDAM-TV, as a sports anchor, up Biloxi, WLX-TV, 1984, Nashville WSMV-TV, 1986, and Atlanta WATV, 1988 to 1990. She rose up the ranks, hosting a radio program on Atlanta's VON 103 as well. She became the first African-American woman to anchor SportsCenter when she joined ESPN in 1990. During her 15-year stint, she covered the Olympics, helped with women's basketball coverage, and hosted NFL Prime Time, the first woman to do so. Go on with your bad self became her mantra. Roberts started as a featured reporter for ABC's Good Morning America, GMA, in 1995. In 2005, he joined George Stephanopoulos and other co-anchors on the show full-time. GMA received numerous Emmy wins for its exceptional morning show under her direction. She has covered significant events like Hurricane Katrina and done high-profile interviews with people like LeBron James and President Barack Obama. She established Rock and Robin Productions in 2014, producing shows like Tuskegee Airmen, a documentary, and Turning the Tables with Robin Roberts, a Disney Plus series. Legacy of Courage 2021 in remembrance of her father. Among her many honors are the Peabody Award 2012, the Walter Cronkite Award for Excellence in Journalism, and her induction into the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame 2012. She came out as homosexual in public in 2014 and talked about her relationship with Amber Lane, whom she married in 2023. The first three are a critical perspective, public narrative, and resilience. The renowned co-anchor of ABC's Good Morning America and a trailblazing broadcaster, Robin Roberts, has long been an inspiration due to her openness about personal struggles as well as her professional accomplishments. Her 2007 breast cancer diagnosis is one of the biggest obstacles she has encountered, a turning point that put her fortitude to the test, changed the way she was seen by the public, and generated a lot of discussion about vulnerability, survivorship, and equity in healthcare. When Robin Roberts, then 46, found a lump in her breast while doing a self-examination in 2007, it was a life-changing event. It was not a coincidental discovery. The recent passing of her coworker, Joel Siegel, an ABC News correspondent, from colorectal cancer, served as the impetus. Roberts was inspired to conduct the self-examination that would reveal her own condition by Siegel's death, which served as a sobering reminder of the value of preventative health care. She was diagnosed with breast cancer after the discovery, which has significant emotional, physical, and social repercussions and affects about 1 in 8 women in the U.S. Roberts believes that a public figure whose presence and vitality were essential to her career. The diagnosis presented a challenge for my career as well as a personal problem. The subsequent treatment was exhausting. Following surgery to remove the malignant tissue, Roberts received radiation therapy for about 2 months and 8 rounds of chemotherapy. Every stage had its own challenges. Particularly, chemotherapy had a substantial negative impact. Roberts' 2014 memoir, Everybody's Got Something, poignantly reflects the alienation and mental fog that many cancer patients endure by describing how she felt not present during treatment. The physical alterations were just as disastrous. Roberts found losing her hair, a common side effect of chemotherapy, especially challenging because her polished appearance had been a key component of her on-air persona. For cancer patients, hair loss is frequently more than just a cosmetic issue. It is an obvious sign of disease that can lower self-esteem and draw unwanted attention. In 2008, Roberts bravely defied these demands by choosing not to wear a wig and going wigless on Good Morning America. She defied conventional notions of beauty and made it clear that she would not conceal her struggles by embracing her real appearance, a decision that struck a strong chord with the audience. Roberts' candor with her experience with breast cancer was revolutionary, especially for a Black woman in a prominent position in the media. Public conversations about cancer were uncommon at the time, and narratives about the disease did not adequately represent Black women, who have a higher death rate from breast cancer as a result of differences in screening, diagnosis, and treatment. Roberts brought attention to the significance of early detection and self-examinations by sharing her story on GMA and in later interviews. Her sensitivity won her over listeners who regarded her as more than just a broadcaster, rather as a relatable human being, and her presence helped mainstream discussions about a sickness that many still deem stigmatizing. She proved that life could go on and even flourish after cancer, which was especially encouraging for women dealing with similar diagnoses. Roberts' tale brings to light glaring differences in access to healthcare. Being a well-known TV personality with a large following, she had access to first-rate medical care, including top-notch oncologists, cutting-edge treatment centers, and a strong support system. Not everyone is able to take time off work, receive intensive treatment, and recuperate in a nurturing setting like she did. Barriers include delayed diagnosis, insufficient insurance, and restricted access to specialized treatments plague the care of many women with breast cancer, especially women of color. For instance, the American Cancer Society reports that Black women have a 40% higher death rate than white women and are more likely to be diagnosed with aggressive forms of breast cancer. Although inspirational, Roberts' tale unintentionally highlights these injustices because her success was partially due to privileges that not everyone has. The second is an account of loss, resiliency, and systemic reality. Robin Roberts was given a heartbreaking diagnosis in June 2012. A collection of illnesses known as myelodysplastic syndrome are brought on by malformed or malfunctioning bone marrow blood cells. Even while MDS is uncommon, it can develop into acute myeloid leukemia, and in Roberts' case, it was a direct result of the chemotherapy she had received for breast cancer 5 years prior, a depressing reminder of the long-term hazards associated with cancer treatment is the correlation between chemotherapy and secondary illnesses, such as MDS, a fact that is frequently obscured by survivor stories. Roberts was given a dire prognosis at the time of her diagnosis. Her physicians predicted that she would only have 1 to 2 years to live if she did not receive a bone marrow transplant. Because Roberts was still dealing with the fallout from her previous cancer battle and juggling a demanding profession in the spotlight, the news carried a great deal of weight in addition to the physical threat. Although Roberts faced many obstacles on the way to therapy, he was lucky in one crucial way. For the bone marrow transplant, her sister, Sally Ann Roberts, a colleague broadcaster in New Orleans, was the ideal donor match. Due to institutional problems like underrepresentation in registries and mistrust of medical systems, the donor pool is significantly biased toward white people, making it difficult for many MDS patients, especially those from minority groups, to find a matching donor. Fortunately for Roberts, she was able to find a sibling match, which probably saved her life. She received the transplant on September 20, 2012, after weeks of preparation that included high-dose chemotherapy to kill her sick bone marrow and a protracted recuperation period during which she was kept apart to avoid infection. Roberts, whose attitude to personal disaster is characterized by a balance between vulnerability and optimism, provided updates to her GMA audience throughout this struggle. Her candor helped dispel the myths surrounding MDS and bone marrow transplants, increasing public awareness of a condition that affects thousands of people every year but is still poorly understood. Unfortunately, Roberts suffered yet another setback as she struggled with her diagnosis and got ready for treatment. Luca Marion Roberts, her mother, passed away on August 30, 2012. As the first African-American woman to chair, Luca Marion was a trailblazer in her own right and a prominent person in Roberts' life. The Board of Education in Mississippi is a steadfast source of support. Roberts had been concerned about her deteriorating health, but there were additional practical and emotional complications because she passed away during the commotion caused by Tropical Storm Isaac's effect on the Gulf Coast. Roberts braved perilous conditions as the storm pounded the area, as she hurried via Christian, Mississippi to be with her mother. She got there just in time to spend Luca Moran's last moments before his death at age 88. In addition to their strong relationship, the loss was particularly poignant because it fell during Roberts's personal battle for survival. Roberts characterized this time as one of intense loss in her 2014 memoir, Everybody's Got Something, where the sorrow of losing her mother at such a crucial moment overshadowed the happiness of her long life. Her mother's passing and Robert's MDS diagnosis and treatment coincided, resulting in a perfect storm of physical and emotional stress. In and of themselves, grief and disease are isolating, but when they come together, they can paralyze. This load was exacerbated for Roberts by the public nature of her position. She was under pressure to appear strong and hopeful because she was a well-liked character on GMA. She grieved in private and went through the difficult transplant procedure. But her choice to talk about these experiences on television, including heartfelt remembrances of her mother and open conversations about her health, was brave and calculated, highlighting her genuineness while negotiating the demands of a media environment that frequently expects women, especially Black women, to have polished resilience. Her reputation as a sympathetic and inspirational figure was cemented when her narrative struck a chord with viewers, many of whom saw similarities in their own experiences with illness or grief. Furthermore, the successful narrative frequently underrepresents the emotional complexity of losing a parent amid a health crisis. There's no neat arc to grief. It persists and recurs in surprising ways, especially when connected to a serious disease. Roberts has talked about how comforting it was to feel her mother's presence during her recuperation, but she has also expressed how painful it was to not have her there in person. The continuous toll of this simultaneous loss may be obscured by the media's emphasis on her fortitude, particularly her return to GMA in February 2013, only 5 months after the transplant. Many people believe that it is impossible to expect to move on from such circumstances fast, and Roberts' public poise may have unintentionally raised the standard for those going through comparable suffering. Grief, legacy, and the invisible burden of public life come in third. A number of personal struggles that Robin Roberts has faced have molded her public image and highlighted her tenacity. One of the most significant losses that shaped her life and profession was the unexpected passing of her father, Lawrence E. Roberts, in 2004. In 2004, at the age of 81, former Air Force Colonel Lawrence E. Roberts passed away suddenly after a heart attack. Robin, who was 43 at the time and becoming well known as a commentator at ABC and ESPN, was shocked to learn of his passing. Lawrence wasn't your typical dad. During World War II, he was a member of the Tuskegee Airmen, the first African-American military pilots to break down racial boundaries and gain recognition for their valor and talent. He was one of the most decorated Black officers of his time when he retired from his 32-year career, which included deployments in Korea and Vietnam. Growing up in pre-Christian Mississippi, Robin saw Lawrence as a role model, a storyteller, a disciplinarian, and a living example of tenacity in the face of institutional bigotry. Her memoir, Everybody's Got Something 2014, in interviews, she referred to him as her idol and credited him with teaching her to be honest, diligent, and proud of her African-American roots. His abrupt departure left a huge emotional hole, as well as the loss of the reassuring presence that had helped her navigate a challenging job. Lawrence's passing had a significant and varied impact. For Roberts, who had a strong bond with her family, it was the first significant loss of a parent figure. Unlike a protracted sickness, the suddenness of a heart attack provided little time for planning or closure, which increased the shock and grief. Roberts has talked about how hard it was to deal with this loss while still fulfilling her professional obligations, which included anchoring Good Morning America and providing ESPN with coverage of important sporting events. Because of her position's public character, grieving, a very private experience, which was unavoidably shaped by her on-air presence, she was under pressure to act with calm and positivity, which is especially true for Black women in the media who are frequently expected to higher standards of emotional control. She was unable to completely withdraw to mourn as many might. Roberts used her sadness as a springboard for meaningful and creative endeavors, chief among them being storytelling. She executive produced the History Channel documentary Tuskegee Airmen, Legacy of Courage in 2021 through her production firm, Rock Robin Productions. Her father and his fellow airmen were honored by the initiative, which combined historical study with personal tales to emphasize their accomplishments and the racism they defeated. Her public appearances, where she frequently tells tales of Lawrence's wisdom and comedy, reflect Roberts' description of the documentary as a means of preserving his memory. She was able to commemorate her father's influence and inform audiences about a significant period in American history through this therapeutic and intentional act of memorialization. However, even this constructive reaction to loss was influenced by her public persona, as the initiative complemented her image as a positive, socially minded personality. However, the public narrative surrounding Lawrence's passing frequently highlights Roberts's capacity to move on and turn suffering into meaning, a framing that merits careful consideration. The media rarely examines the lingering effects of bereavement, instead praising her fortitude, her ability to create a documentary, her ability to continue anchoring GMA, and her ability to motivate people. Time and success don't make up for loss. It changes and reemerges during introspective or significant occasions. As Roberts dealt with later difficulties like her diagnosis of breast cancer in 2007 and myelodysplastic syndrome in 2012, the loss of her father probably held extra weight for her. By emphasizing her resilience, the public runs the risk of oversimplifying this reality and portraying mourning as a challenge to overcome rather than a lifetime companion. This story may put unwarranted pressure on others who are grieving, especially those who lack Roberts' means or platform, to be as productive in the face of grief. Fourth, Robin Roberts' function as a caregiver and Amber Lane's experience with cancer. Numerous personal struggles that Robin Roberts has encountered have increased her influence in the public eye. The most personal and impactful was when her partner Amber Lane was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2021. The 2-year-long crisis put their relationship and strength to the test. The diagnosis of breast cancer that Amber Lane, a massage therapist and businesswoman, received in late 2021 completely changed both her life and the lives of Robin Roberts, her companion since 2005. About 1 in 8 women in the U.S. may develop breast cancer, which presents emotional and relational difficulties in addition to physical ones, especially for couples dealing with the disease together. Lane's diagnosis signaled the start of an arduous course of therapy. Early in 2022, she started chemotherapy, a procedure known for its crippling side effects, including exhaustion, nausea, hair loss, and immune suppression, but intended to reduce tumors and stop the cancer from spreading. Roberts was a source of empathy and a witness to Lane's suffering because she had herself fought breast cancer in 2007 and deeply knew these effects. Roberts publicly announced the diagnosis on GMA and social media in February 2022, presenting it with a cautious sense of hope while highlighting Lane's resilience and their combined will to meet the battle head-on. The course of treatment wasn't straight. Complications, a broad but sinister term that could include infections, organ stress, or other setbacks typical of harsh cancer treatments, caused Lane's chemotherapy to be stopped by the middle of 2022. Roberts assured viewers that Lohan was being closely monitored by doctors when he made the announcement, which was transparent as usual. After a brief hiatus, Lohan continued her treatment, finishing chemotherapy and switching to radiation therapy by the end of 2022. Radiation, which is frequently used to target cancer cells that remain after chemotherapy, needed daily sessions for weeks, which added to the emotional and physical toll. Roberts revealed in September 2022 that Lohan had rung the bell, marking a significant milestone, the end of active treatment. Relief was felt, but it was tempered by the knowledge that survival entails constant observation and modification. During this time, Roberts juggled her duties as Lane's primary caregiver with her well-known position at GMA. She took a break from the show to acknowledge the stress of helping a partner with cancer, demonstrating her commitment to putting her family before her job. Coworkers like Amy Robach and George Stephanopoulos covered for her. Through social media and sporadic GMA updates, Roberts maintained a connection with her audience, but her messages frequently emphasized Lane's tenacity, offering hopeful moments such as their garden walks or Lane's resolve despite the adversity. Robert used the expression holding space for Lane in an Instagram video posted in February 2022, encapsulating her emotional struggle as a spouse juggling hope, dread, and uncertainty. After 18 years of dating, Their September 2023 marriage was a celebration of their relationship and a happy diversion from the hardships they had faced. Roberts made a conscious choice to share Lane's path, which is consistent with her history of inspiring others through personal struggles. She used her position as a breast cancer survivor to raise awareness and encourage women to give screenings and self-care first priority. She framed the couple's experience as a universal tale of love and tenacity in her updates about Lane, emphasizing resiliency. Viewers found resonance in this story, and many expressed their support on social media by lauding Roberts' bravery and Lane's vulnerability. The story's climactic events, Lane's successful completion of treatment and their wedding, solidified Roberts' reputation as a person who turns suffering into meaning. Her candor also helped to destigmatize same-sex relationships in the media, which was a small but important step toward visibility for a Black lesbian pair. Roberts' narrative is frequently presented as one of triumphing over hardship, which fits with the media's penchant for happy endings. Although she is unquestionably resilient, this narrative may downplay the systemic problems, such as healthcare disparities, that she was able to overcome more readily because of her riches and status. Although her public vulnerability was revolutionary, it also reflected the assumption that Black women in the media should be honest under duress, a quality that is less closely examined in their male or white counterparts. Her health issues also draw attention to the long-term dangers of therapies, like chemotherapy, a subject that is rarely thoroughly explored in popular narratives.